Greetings, I'm Karen Colligan, and welcome to the Let's Talk Leadership podcast. If there's one thing I know, it's that every single leader is unique. There's no single way to lead. Your leadership style is shaped by your experiences, by your values, and by your strengths. And that is why this podcast exists. We bring in leaders from all walks of life to answer the same 6 questions, revealing their unique approaches to leadership. Because leadership is not about following a script. It's about figuring out who you want to be as a leader. So listen closely, take what resonates, and start shaping your own leadership path. So let's get moving and talk to our next leadership guest. In this episode, I'm thrilled to be speaking to Maryann Pagano, CEO of BlackHawk Data. And we're going to hear all about Maryann's approach to leadership. So Maryann, welcome, and thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So Maryann, tell us a little bit about who you are and give us a snapshot of BlackHawk Data. And we'll do all that before we even start our leadership conversation.
Sure. BlackHawk Data is in the IT technology space. We are a solutions provider and a managed services provider. So we've been in business. We just started year 7 in June. So I've been in the IT industry for about 25 years. In 2018, my partner Jason and I decided to give it a go on our own at the ripe old age of 48, I think I was at the time. And we figured we'd give it a go and see how it worked out for us. So 7 years later, and we're still at it.
Yeah. So I guess it worked out for you.
I guess so.
You got to love that. That doesn't always happen. That's for
Does
sure.
not.
So great. Thank you, Maryann. So first things first, there's so many ways to define leadership, and it's so personal to each individual, Maryann. So how do you define leadership?
So for me, and I've had to learn a whole heck of a lot. I come from a background of managing small teams, right? So going from managing small teams to managing a company and 55 people as a leader, I've had to really learn a lot, right? For me, I like to lead with honesty, authenticity. I like being a people manager. I like being able to be a relatable manager, someone that can understand, guide, help, mentor, train. The hard-handed leader comes later when nobody listens. But in the beginning, I want people to respect me for being me, right? I was them. Technically, I try to still be them. But I like being that authentic, just normal, personable leader.
And it's interesting. So you say you were them. That makes a big difference from a credibility perspective, especially in the IT world. Yeah. Because if you're leading IT professionals and you haven't been with them in that space, it might not be the same respect level.
Yeah. And, in the beginning, when I first started, so many people told me that I don't have the CEO quality. And, for years, I tried to figure out what am I missing, right? Because again, I'm just me. And I think that I'm respected because I'm me. Yes, I've gotten better over time. But I think because I've been in the trenches and I still go into the trenches when I need to, I think that it gains a lot of respect. And people aspire to be that way. And then they look at that leader and say, hey, she was me once. Look at where she is now. I would love to learn her style so that one day I could be her. Not always a CEO, because that's not always the direction I tell people to want to take. But maybe you want to be a vice president of something, or you want to lead a whole team, or you want to grow and expand. Being able to see someone who you aspire to want to be like is a cool spot to be in.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And you said you like to mentor, you like to guide, you like to develop. So, obviously being a CEO, you do all those things. What's interesting is that when someone says, so they say to you, you don't have the qualities to be a CEO. Who are they to say something like that? Like, it's mind-boggling to me, because the whole point of our conversation is to really discuss the uniqueness of each individual. And you have been saying, I got to be authentic. I got to be who I am. And you know what? I am who I am. That is leadership. End of story. And the next time you see someone who says you can't be a CEO, just smack them. That's right.
And I think a lot has to do with the fact that you're a female, right? You're a female in a male-dominated industry. There aren't too many. I could probably count on one hand how many CEO founders are females. And I think because you don't come from that same mold, they look at you and say that you don't have the CEO quality. So what is that, right? I built a company from zero in 6 years to 96 million. I must have some kind of quality.
Something's going on over there.
I did something right.
Yeah, I love that. That's for sure. And so that brings me to the second question, because when I think about leadership and I think about the like, what is our guiding light? How do we make those easy decisions, of course, but how do we make those tough decisions? And they're normally based on our values. And as hard as a decision might be, if you go back to that core, you're like, okay, I hate this decision, and it's the right one. So tell us, what are your three top values?
So we created this thing called many years ago, a path to success, right? And we use that as core values, right? Authenticity, passion, teamwork, right? So we look at a lot of those and we hire by them, we manage by them. I look at them and say, hey, you have to share the same values, the passion for what you do, the passion to succeed, the teamwork, the honesty, right? Because if I'm an honest CEO, I want my employees to be honest, right? We lead by all those values. We hire by those values. During our quarterly business reviews and our quarterly updates, we restate the values every quarter. We've built an employee recognition program around our core values so that they can recognize each other, right? And they can nominate each other for the value they represented during a transaction with each other.
Wow. And that's really about reinforcement. That's really about living it and breathing it, and then being able to have each individual within the organization say, well, if they can do it, I can do it. Whether it's you or whether it's their colleague, it's like, well, wait a minute, I've got to own up and I've got to honor this. The fact that you hire and manage to it means it keeps going. It's like the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah, and we created from core values commitment statements, right? I will continue to learn. I will continue to improve, right? I will continue to give back, right? Because giving back is a part of what you want to be as a person, right? So we've built not just core values now, but commitment statements, right? And our employee recognition programs talks about not just what core value do they represent, but what commitment statement do they represent, right? The always learning, the always getting better, the always giving back. Like what commitment statement are they leading towards most?
Yes. And what I'll say is, so you said everybody really wants to give back, and we hope that that's true. And it's not always true.
It's not always true because I have a hard time finding people to speak on panels sometimes and give up an hour or come to a solutions provider group or just join things or try to. People kind of want to, but they kind of don't. So you've got to really find the ones who are always willing to give back and really truly want to make a difference. And people always ask, what do I want my legacy to be, right? Yeah, she built a great business, but what did she do in the meantime?
And what's that saying? Nobody wants on their tombstone, I worked so hard every single day that I had no time for anything else, or something along those lines. It's the truth. Yeah. All right. So our third question here, Maryann, is what's the best advice you were ever given as a leader?
So I'll go back probably 10 years. And the one statement that always sticks in my mind is someone said to me as an inside sales rep, they said to me, your account managers are successful because of you and because of the effort and the consistency you put forward. Some people are successful in spite of the support that they're getting. And that one thing that always stuck with me all these years, and I'll tell my reps the same thing. You want to be the person that says, hey, they're successful because of the support and help they got from you, not in spite of.
Wow. Isn't it funny how we remember things like that?
Yeah.
And
so one thing that sticks out in my mind.
And you bring it right into your business, right into BlackHawk. It's just to live and breathe. And that means that's how the sales reps are going to live and breathe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We hope.
Yeah, exactly. Fingers crossed.
You certainly hope they're listening.
Well, you know what? After we're done here, you give them this podcast and you say, you listen to this, people. All right. Number 4. We're currently going through an enormous amount of transition and change between the employee layoffs, world events, and really the economic implications of both. And so when you think about that, the overall, and then you think about our day-to-day, the work that we do, our clients, So how do you lead through transition and change, and how do you help your team? Because your team's on different client sites, so you can't always be with them. So how do you help them do that, Maryann?
So keeping in mind, we started the business in 2018. So it wasn't until like 2019 where things really got rolling. And then by the time we hired a whole bunch of staff and finally had things to do, 2020 rolled around. So if anyone's had to pivot from economic changes, leadership changes in federal governments, pandemics that were never a thing, riots, right? There was so much, no one's had to pivot in a very short period of time, more than someone like me. And you're starting a job and a career where you're building a business. You're now responsible for people's livelihood, right? So you've got to transition through, oh my God, COVID hit, right? Maybe it'll be a week or two and everything will be back to normal, and then you're years into it, right? So you have to pivot through that and you figure, what do I do for the next few months? Like, how do I get the business through that? How do I ensure the people that they'll still have a job in 6 months to a year? And then you go through federal changes, you go through different things that are outside of your control. Like none of these things anybody can control. I keep trying to explain that to my mother. I cannot control tariffs. I cannot control, the change in DEI terminology. Right? I can't change those things. I have to continue to pivot and do different things, right? Selling hardware is not always a thing because if the tariffs hit, it negatively affects our business. We live in chips and bits and bytes.
Yes,
Right. We
yes.
are the definition of DEI, right? I am a woman-owned business in a man's world. I am the definition of DEI. So how do I continue to use that to our benefit when people are saying, don't do DEI? It's not a thing anymore, but it is, right? So how do you
Yes.
constantly pivot? And it's always pivoting talk tracks, sales offerings. What do we actually bring to the table? How do you pivot away from just hardware before tariffs hit and do more services and more support services? So we have to constantly pivot offerings and we have to constantly reinforce our employees that, hey, we're growing. Our numbers are going up. Our clientele is going up. We have bigger success stories. I have to constantly reinforce that, if not daily, during our business review. So other people I don't see all the time, right, understand that we're getting net new clients. They may not see it in their job role, but I've got to make sure everybody sees that we're still stable. We also run skinny, right? I'm not really a manager or an owner that's into a ton of layers or a ton of people to pay to do things that can take one or two people, right? So we run fairly thin as it is. So that kind of helps us kind of ride the wave a little bit better, but listen, it's been a tumultuous 6 years,
Yeah,
7 years.
of course. Yeah. And when you think about pivoting, you have to recognize it, you have to act quickly, and then you have to communicate it. And
Yeah.
that all has to be done in a very short time frame, which means decision making has to happen in a very short time frame, which then goes back to the values, because if you're living your values, then you can make those hard decisions and the pivots have to happen quickly. And as we continue to grow as organizations, we have to continue to think about what is going to shift so that we can shift our business model. So in fact, we can answer the questions and the opportunities we would have with clients that might not even have been available 6 months ago.
Yeah. It's something as a new business owner, as a new manager, right, to managing an entire business top to bottom, I've had to adapt really fast because you didn't have a choice.
And the people who haven't are no longer with us in terms of business.
Yeah.
Okay, great. We know that leaders are curious and always learning. And what tools and resources have you used to continually grow and develop? Now, I know that you do lots of conferences. I know you do lots of panels. And obviously, that's a beautiful development tool. What else do you do?
So I thought in my 50s I was done learning.
Never, never, never.
I've probably learned more in the last 7 years than I've probably learned in my whole career. I'm not a reader, but I've learned to read more books than I care to. I've listened to more podcasts than I probably care to. I've had to learn things about how to pivot, how to market, right? What's marketing strategy, business strategies, sales strategies, right? I've had to do more of that. I think one of the biggest learning things for me in the last few months was hiring a CEO or a sales coach for myself.
Oh,
right? Because at some point it became very difficult for me to coach myself, right? Because at the end of the day, it's lonely at the top, right? There's only so many people you can talk to. And I thought I had no capacity, right? To not be able to do as much as I possibly can. When I realized I couldn't, I hired a coach for myself in the last few months, and I feel it leveling me out a little bit, right? Where they teach you about yourself too, right? Because there's a lot of self-learning that you have to do, right? And
yes.
that was probably one of the best investments I've made for myself was to help somebody not just read books and watch podcasts and go to seminars and do things like go to JP Morgan Chase and EY and the C200 meetings and WPO, but have someone one-on-one coach me to
Yeah.
learn the good, the bad, the ugly about me,
Yeah, 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 yeah,
how to
yeah.
recognize the good, which women don't do well, and then to recognize the bad, which I do recognize. I just don't know how to fix it on my own, and helping me learn to fix me.
And when you have a coach, that's what they're there for. I mean, is to help continue the growth and the curiosity and those types of things. And sometimes it's hard to step up and say, you know what, I really do need help. I may be the CEO and I do need help. And Maryann, what I talk about all the time is it's about self-awareness, it's about development, it's about growth, it's about repeat. That's it. I mean, that's what our lives have to be. And as we continue to mature in our careers, it doesn't matter. Self-awareness, because we change and shift all the time. We got to develop, we got to grow, and then we got to repeat that. And it goes back to your pivoting. If you're not developing and growing, how the heck would you know when to pivot?
I think one of the things that she taught me was the fact that I am self-aware. Like I'm authentic and I'm real. So I am self-aware. So half the battle is admitting that you have a problem or admitting that you're not strong in an area and being coachable. Because a lot of times, listen, I watch a lot of people think they have it all figured out and they don't need any help. But I think that it's helped me tremendously. I brought my partner Jason into, I joke to him all the time that we're going to marriage counseling. It's couples coaching, right? It's business coaching, right? So now that they get to coach both of us together, right? So that we can both grow together and just become stronger, better leaders, stronger, better partners. Again, I never thought in my 50s I would have to learn as much as I learn now.
And let's not forget, enjoy it too, Mary.
I think the coach is helping me enjoy it. I think that's part of the challenge. I don't know how to stop and enjoy it and smell the roses. I think even though Jason has told me to stop and do that, I don't think you know how to. I think the coach has had to help me recognize that I do have CEO qualities and that I am good at what I do. And I have to stop and recognize it a little bit.
Yeah. And when people talk about you're alluding to work-life balance, I always say, oh, hello. I call
Hello.
it work-life blend. It's, there's days and times you're just going to have to work more than other days and times. It just is what it is. But if you can blend that and make sure that you're not going off the deep end, that's always helpful. And sometimes you need somebody to tell you that. That's for sure. It sounds like
Yeah.
you do that too.
Jason does. Yes, he does. He's really good at that.
That's great. All right. So the last question, what piece of art or music or literature or whatever else keeps you balanced and brings you joy, with joy being the operative word here. So what brings you joy?
I that's something the coach is helping me work on because I think I've lost that because I work so many hours, 7 days a week, and I think I lost that a little bit, and that the amount of effort and work that you have to put in, you kind of lose joy a little bit. What helps me is when I'm on the train and I'm listening to songs that pump me up, right? Things that, whether it's songs from The Greatest Showman, whether it's The Climb by Miley Cyrus, like stuff like that, right? There's different songs that just make me feel good about myself, right? So a lot of times I'll just play that on the train coming in because it lifts my spirits up
Yeah.
and gets me out of my mindset. I've kind of lost personal, not joy, but I've lost that personal connection to my life, which hasn't existed for a long time, right? So now it's finding the right people to bring in to give me some of that back because
Yeah.
there is no work-life balance when you own a business, especially for the first 10 years.
Yeah.
But I think for me, music helps. Sometimes I'll just veg out on the couch and watch TV on the weekend for a couple hours, stupid shows that most people don't want to watch just because I need mind-numbing things that don't
Yeah.
cause me to think.
Exactly. Exactly. And music is magical in general. No matter what you listen to, as long as you like it, there is something magical about music. And, we think so hard all week long, like you said, you're 7 days a week. How do you calm that down? And we have to do that. So mindless TV is delightful and delicious.
I've learned to like it. I've also, one of the things the coach taught me was make sure you shut down 30 minutes before bedtime so that your mind's not racing. I'm not so great at that all the time, but you have to shut your mind down from not racing for at least 30 minutes so that you can actually fall asleep, or else your mind just plays on you for hours and you're up for like hours. So I have to shut down and go mind numbing things, whether it's cleaning or washing the dishes or doing something silly that makes me happy, just to just get away from the noise so I can actually go to sleep and actually fall asleep.
Yeah. Sleeping's a good thing.
I need a lot of sleep. I need at least 6 to 7 hours a night, so I need sleep.
No, that's a good thing. We like that. Fabulous. All righty then. So Maryann, thank you so much for all of it. Insights, thoughts. You are who you are. You got to love that. You have your unique style. You're a damn CEO, and let's go find those people who said you wouldn't be. The one thing I'll leave you with is you bring a lot of joy to other people. And my guess is that probably gives you some joy too. So make sure you can take some joy from others. That's probably not a gift you have. Just thinking out loud, Maryann.
It's not. I'm working on that.
Okay, good. Gotta love that. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. And we're really, really grateful for all your wise words. So
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So to everybody else listening, I'm Karen Colligan, and you've been listening to Maryann Pagano, CEO of BlackHawk Data. And if this leadership podcast was of interest to you, we're out on YouTube, where people think New York is where we are, and we're everywhere you're going to listen to a podcast is where we're going to show up. So till the next episode of the Let's Talk Leadership podcast, have a good one. And don't forget to keep it real. Editing by Mary Lee Williams.